let's talk a little bit more about this, and particularly President Trump's battle with Democrats, growing more intense, it seems, by the week. Let's bring in Bill O'Reilly, Republican strategist and columnist at Newsday in Washington, Jonathan Swan, national political reporter for Axios, and Democratic strategist Atima Omar. Great to have the three of you with us. So let me start with you, Jonathan, if I can. And you wrote this week in Axios that the Democrats are finding their inner Tea Party, so to speak. What's fueling the anger the most, do you think?
Well, Trump is the ultimate recruitment tool, and what we're seeing now is actually quite similar to the Tea Party. It's not entirely organic, but there is something very real going on out there. But it's also blended with, organised infrastructure and serious funding. And what we're seeing is protests all over the place that are incredibly intense. And when these Republicans go back to their districts in a week's time, they're going to face very, very angry crowds. And this is going to have some effect.
Bill, obviously a lot of the concerns that we're hearing from folks in these town halls has to do with repealing Obamacare, and a lot of criticism actually being leveled against Republicans that they don't have something adequate in place. We're hearing a lot of really personal stories, surprising and touching stories. But are you at all surprised, because this was such an issue for Republicans on the campaign trail that they were going to repeal and replace Obamacare, are you at all surprised by the anger that some of these GOP folks are seeing at the town halls that they don't have something in place?
Not really, but I think it's really important that Republicans go out there and talk to people and meet with people and be available, because there is a lot of concern out in the country. I think some are genuinely alarmed by the new president, some of his actions. And I think it's important for Republicans to make themselves available and to say, hey, we're going to be rational there, and to listen and to not hide.
Are you at all surprised as a GOP strategist at how much anger there is right now?
No, I think it very much depends. I think the unsatisfying answer is that we're not going to know, other than in retrospect, whether the Democrats are right to kind of oppose everything.
Yeah.
I mean, if the GDP is at 3 in a year, the Republicans are going to be in good shape. If we're at war with Peru and the yuan's the international currency, Democrats are going to be in good shape. We'll have to see in retrospect.
And there's no GOP plan in place right now, just to be clear, right?
On the Obamacare, I think they're going to have to keep parts of Obamacare and then try and fix it and add some reforms.
Atima, speaking on it from a Democratic perspective, what is it that the Democrats can do to harness some of this anger and this energy and perhaps translate it into some political momentum going into the midterms?
Oh my goodness, we have so many people attending, Democratic meetings. Activist groups are springing up all across the country. I just came back from our DNC forum to elect our new chair, so certainly a lot of the vision will be set nationally for the party after that happens. But, specifically talking about the issues that are concerning people. One, this ACA repeal, it's obviously getting people excited and going to town hall meetings. Talking about defunding Planned Parenthood, talking about education and the fact that somebody has no public education training or education policy experience is running our Department of Education. It's talking about the issues that most affect Americans and harnessing this energy and getting people out to the polls.
Hey, Jonathan, I got to ask you a question that, I myself, having covered a lot in the Middle East, I'm used to hearing overseas, not so much here in the U.S., but Congressman Jason Chaffetz argued that the people who interrupted him at a town hall event were paid agitators. So have you seen any evidence that someone is bankrolling this effort?
Well, look, there was some reporting by the Washington Post that there are people being bussed around by a super PAC. But let's be very, very clear. If George Soros is funding all of this, he's much richer than any of us can imagine. I mean, this is real, and, the very glib line that this is all just paid protesters and it's all manufactured, it's evidently nonsense, and you just don't see the kind of intensity that we're seeing all around the country by some sort of grass tops effort.
Let me just pick up on that real quick, Bill. So even if these folks were being bussed in, that's not the same as saying that these are paid agitators. And as a GOP strategist, are you telling your Republican clients, listen, you guys got to listen to these folks and take them seriously, or are you kind of dismissing them at running the risk of what the Democrats did to the Tea Party a couple years ago on Obamacare?
You always have to listen. I mean, the political left has always been more organized on the ground than the Republicans in the country, and you're seeing a lot of recruitment right now successfully. There are a lot of demonstrations. I think the concern for the Democratic Party, I speak as a strategist, not as a Republican, is that the left could punch itself out if it goes and chases every shiny object that this president puts in its way, which are manifold. They could be in danger of just being a party of constant protest, and the average American will just shut them out.
Atima, I'd like you to weigh in on this as well, the accusation that these folks are paid agitators. Have you seen any, as a Democratic strategist, have you gotten a sense at all of who may be behind this? Is there an organized campaign to get these folks out?
It is organizing citizens who are organizing their fellow citizens to turn out to these town halls. It's people who are volunteering to put together spreadsheets on where their town halls are going to be for their members of Congress. That's who's doing it. It's not paid in any way, shape, or form. This is pretty organic, and it's for somebody who's been involved in politics for 12 some odd years. I've never quite seen anything like it. And to see Jason Chaffetz and other members of Congress dismiss it as paid protesters, they do it at their own peril, because this is a natural movement. It's only going to keep growing, and they would do well to pay heed to what's happening here on the ground.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the big discussion this week about the immigration ban. Obviously a setback for the White House, President Trump's plans. Bill, do you think that this was a defeat for the president, the first round against the immigration bill? What do you see the White House doing? Appealing to the Supreme Court? Taking their losses and writing a new executive order?
Absolutely, it was a humiliating defeat for the president. This is not what he needs. He doesn't do well with humiliating defeats, so I think we're going to have to see what he does. I think he goes back to the lower court, and then they're talking about rolling out another executive order next week. I think what the country needs are not executive orders, but they need Congress to step in here. I mean, there are cities and states that have policies that I may not completely agree with, but they were pushed into that position. They had no choice because of a failed federal government. I mean, you have two Republican houses right now and a Republican president. They need to act. They need to get something clear, consistent, and workable and reasonable.
Jonathan, do you see Capitol Hill prepared to work with President Trump on this issue? As Bill was saying, like, could they possibly reach out to him and say, listen, let's try to do this legislatively, because these executive orders that you're putting out, particularly on this issue, have been shot down?
Yeah, look, I think that's their preference. Whether that could get 60 votes in the Senate is another question. But this is a really interesting, if he does redraft it, it's a very interesting retreat. I spoke to a Trump source 12 days ago when all this was blowing up. This is someone intimately involved and familiar with the drafting of the executive order. And I said, is there any chance you guys will redraft this thing? And the reaction was complete bemusement. No way, it's perfect. Everything's great, perfectly drafted. So this is a real retreat and an acknowledgement that the original document was not managed correctly.
Atima, let me pick up on a point that Bill made, which is that Democrats going after and punching after every object that they see, every shiny object. And there are a lot of things that are being put out by the Trump administration that are drawing the concerns of Democrats, whether it be nominees for cabinet positions, whether it's the immigration ban, what have you. What's the strategy for the Democrats here? What is the best approach? Do they go after everything, or do they harness their energy and go after a few?
Oh, absolutely, harnessing the energy and going after key and few things that are very crucial to a cross-section of Americans. Going after, if we were trying to go after every tweet, oh my gosh, we'd be, never getting anything done successfully. Yeah. So we really, really have to focus on the issues that concern Americans. Immigration reform and how this whole ICE situation has been handled is horrifying. I've already heard stories of ICE officials getting onto buses here just in the D.C. metro area, using children as bait to get to their parents who are not here, who are undocumented. It's very unfortunate. It's very scary. It's very real for a lot of people. And I think, honestly, harnessing that concern and turning it into a productive movement is the best use of the Democrats' time.
All right, Bill O'Reilly, Jonathan Swan, Atima Omar, great to have all of your perspectives with us this Saturday afternoon. Thanks for joining us.